Hello again. It's been a couple of months since I did my original video on COVID-19, and so I figured it was time for an update. And since when I watch Bill Maher on HBO on TV, he's often sequestered into his backyard, I went, okay, that's not a bad idea. I think I'll take the camera out into my backyard and do this update in the backyard. There's a hummingbird going on my hummingbird feeder right now. So a lot of changes have occurred, a lot of new information has come forward, and it's just time for me to go over some of it. Some things we pretty much know for certain, some things people disagree on, some things are true in some places and are not true in other places. So let's go over a couple of these different things and give you some information that you may or may not be getting depending on what your news sources are that you usually listen to. First of all, I am really upset that all of the reports on COVID-19 use the word cases. That is obviously being asked by people on purpose because everybody uses it, so there's got to be somebody behind it, for the purpose of scaring the public. And I don't think a scared public is a good public. I think we should have much more information and not be made to be more scared than we should be. So let me tell you why I don't like the word cases. Cases means people that have tested positive on one of the many different coronavirus COVID-19 tests that they currently have out there. So let me give you an example. Let's say, and I'm just going to make these numbers up to give you an example. Let's say that on a particular day, 400 people test positive on whatever tests that particular area or whatever many different tests that particular area is using to test people. And so the media comes out and says, 400 new cases. Well, but wait a minute. What they really should be saying, if they're being fair and accurate, is over the last 24 hours, if that's what they're saying, last day, 400 new people have tested positive in various different areas, various different counties maybe in that area, various different hospitals, because they're not all going to the exact same test site. So 400 people have tested positive on various tests for COVID-19. Now, if they were giving full information, they might include, and I'm going to make these numbers up because I have no idea, of those 400 cases, 350 have no symptoms of any kind whatever. Those 350 people feel fantastic, but because of the place they work, or because of whatever is required of them, or because they felt like getting tested, they happen to test positive. So 350 people tested positive, have no symptoms, feel fantastic, and will probably not get any symptoms, very likely, and will get over it if they have it because their body's doing its job. The other 50, maybe 20 of them have some symptoms, maybe have a fever, maybe have a sore throat, maybe have sniffles, so that leaves another 30. Of the additional 30, maybe 20 of those have a bad fever and really aren't feeling very good and are staying at home and hoping over the next couple of days that they'll get better, but they decided to go in and get tested. And of the remaining 10, maybe those 10 were feeling so bad that they had to check into a hospital emergency room and they're being monitored in the hospital. So of the 400 imaginary cases that I'm giving you as an example, it's very possible that 350 of them are not cases at all. They're simply positive tests. So the word cases is being completely misused to scare the public. That pisses me off. Now, there are reports out there, I've heard quite a number of them, of a lot of people that have gone into hospitals for other reasons. So I personally, when something is told to me personally, and it's not third hand, I have a lot more belief in it. So I personally have a number of patients who have older parents. One of them had cancer, one of them had advanced heart disease, and they happen to be in the hospital for various different reasons. The cancer patient died of their cancer in the hospital. They had never been tested for COVID-19. It wasn't important because they weren't going to be able to be treated differently anyway. And they died of their cancer. And the patient of mine said they got to see the death certificate and it said death due to COVID-19. That person had never been tested, didn't go to the hospital because of COVID-19, and yet their death certificate said COVID-19. The person that wrote that down should be in jail or at least fined and maybe lose their medical license. Another person, I believe it was a father, was in the hospital for advanced heart disease, had a heart attack in the hospital, and died of a heart attack in the hospital. Had never been tested, did not go to the hospital for COVID-19, and on their death certificate it said death due to COVID-19 instead of a heart attack. Again, the doctor who wrote that down should have their license pulled. Maybe they should be in jail. I don't know. But these are just a couple that I know personally. And I also have a couple of nurses that are my patients, a couple of doctors that are my patients, a couple of nurse practitioners that are my patients. And a number of them have said in their hospital, and it's been discussed, so they've heard this, that a lot of people that have never been tested for COVID-19 and did not go to the hospital for COVID-19 are being listed on their reports as positive for COVID-19 without any tests. Now, I mentioned this to one of my patients who is upper level in an insurance company that reinsures, I believe, for Medicare. And he said, I'm hearing those also, but we have been having meetings with a bunch of the doctors in the hospitals where we offer insurance coverage for some of the patients. And all of the doctors that I've mentioned this to has said, oh my God, I would never do that. Are you kidding? I could lose my license. Maybe I could even go to jail. I would never falsify a medical document and put down COVID-19 for somebody who hadn't even been tested for COVID-19. So I have one person who I know and trust telling me that the doctors who he knows and trusts have said to him they would never do that. And I have other people telling me that the doctors in their hospitals are doing it, have admitted it to them. So when you hear this, I just want you to understand that some people are making it up, some people are not making it up, and apparently both things are happening. People are doing things that maybe they should lose their license over, and other people would never do that. So we get mixed messages as usual, and we don't know who to believe. Now, there's another thing that I want people to understand besides my reason to hate the word cases, and that is that I've always wondered about the testing. The first test that was being done was polymerase chain reaction, PCR. And the person apparently who developed the PCR form of testing, it's used for many, many different things, has said in the past, in public, and possibly written, that is looking at fragments of DNA and not an entire DNA for a bacteria, a virus, a parasite, whatever. And it's a very inaccurate test. It gives false positives, false negatives all the time. And those were the first tests. They were all PCR tests. Now they're doing other types of testing. There are a number of different types of tests that are out there. So I've always wondered, how accurate are the tests? Because if they tell me that, 5,000 people tested positive, and of course they don't say that, they say 5,000 cases. I don't like that. But they say 5,000 people tested positive. If there are lots of false positive tests, in other words, if, let's say, 20% of the people that test positive don't have the condition, and the test was faulty, 20%, that would mean that 1,000 would really be 750. That's a pretty big difference. Or 400 would really be, I'm saying 20%, 25%. So again, let's say 25% are inaccurate. So if they tested 1,000, it would be 750. If they tested 400, it would really be 300. But that depends on how many false positives you get. So recently, I got one of the recent, either June or July issue of Frank Schallenberger's medical newsletter, which I've subscribed to for many, many years. I know Dr. Schallenberger personally, very honest, very ethical doctor, one of the world experts in ozone, and he's been telling people for years and years and years, back with Ebola and SARS, if we had ozone intravenous legal in the United States, as it is in Germany and other countries, they probably could have saved lots of the people that died, because ozone is a fantastic antiviral. Intravenous vitamin C is another one, not quite as fantastic, but has helped a lot of people. And so, of course, it's not being used and not being talked about. But as far as the tests are concerned, somebody asked him in his newsletter, in the question and answer section on his last page, what do you know about the accuracy of the COVID-19 tests? And he wrote a beautiful, almost the entire page, of the reasons that the tests are very inaccurate. So that's in his, I think it's called Second Opinion, Frank Schallenberger. and I may put up that one page on my website. It's sort of a copyright infringement, but it'll be promoting his newsletter, so I'm sure Frank won't mind that. And what he said was that from all the experts he's talking to in the proper positions to know that they're getting 80% false positives, that the tests are only about 20% accurate. So somebody tells you that they just had 100 cases, and again, they shouldn't be called cases, that's really 100 people testing positive. If the 80% false positive rate is correct, then really it was 20, not 100. That's very important for us to understand, because we're being massively misled, or if the person telling you this knows what I'm saying, then we're being lied to. If somebody doesn't know that they're telling a fib, then it's not a fib. They're just ignorant and they're giving you incorrect information. So I handed that to this same gentleman that had talked to a bunch of the doctors that they know in the different hospitals, and the man said, we have actually asked a whole bunch of people about this, and he said this article by Dr. Schallenberger, from what I've been told, is extremely accurate, that's about right, about 80% false positives. So that's a little bit of a affirmation for the 80% false positives and the inaccuracy of the rates. And then just a few days ago, I think it was the June 26th or 27th or 28th or something like that, 60 Minutes, CBS 60 Minutes, where they delve in really deeply and talk to a whole bunch of experts. They did an entire segment of their 3-segment portion, and you can find it online by putting, I think if you go into Google and you put in CBS COVID-19 inaccuracy of tests, you might be able to find it. I may put that segment on my website, telling people that you really need to watch CBS 60 Minutes. They have a lot of fantastic stuff. Hopefully they won't bother me that I've put it up there, because what they did is they actually interviewed a bunch of experts, a bunch of doctors, a whole bunch of these, and what did they come up with? That there's about an 80% false positive rate of COVID-19 testing. So that's verifying what I'm saying. This is really, really disgusting. I mean, we are being so misled. Not sure if we're being lied to, because if the person telling you this doesn't know that it's wrong, then it's not a lie, it's just ignorance. So then today I had another woman in my office. I mean, I'm still seeing patients, and she said that a friend of hers told her some information from a good friend of the friends. So now this is third hand. I have a harder time with third hand, but she said, no, I know this woman very, very well. And she said that this particular nurse wanted to see what would happen if she took a COVID-19 test, took the swab out, did not swab anybody, just took the swab out without swabbing anybody, put it into the sealed container, and sent it in for test results with a name on it as though they were checking it. It came back positive. It hadn't swabbed anybody. There was no DNA on it at all, unless the DNA was a contaminant on the test. So the nurse said, maybe that's just a one-time, something weird, some idiot in the lab. So a couple of nurses got together, and they did this with 10 different COVID-19 tests. They took 10 tests, and they took them out, didn't swab anybody, put them into the sealed container, capped them, put 10 different people's names on them, sent them in. She said they all came back positive. So again, this is not one of my patients telling me that they know this. This is somebody knowing somebody else knowing somebody else. Okay, not quite as fanatically reliable, but it doesn't surprise me when you have that much stuff going on. So, as I said in the first video that I did a couple months ago, if you want to protect yourself as much as you are able, the single most important nutrient that's ever been tested for the immune system, even though nobody's talking about it, is real vitamin A. That is not beta-carotene. Real vitamin A, in other words, it says on the label, vitamin A from fish liver oil, from cod liver oil, or retinol palmitate. I happen to use with my patients the Carlson Natural Vitamin A 10,000, that on the back of the label under ingredients says vitamin A mixed from cod liver oil and retinol palmitate. I don't use beta-carotene for that. So number one is beta-carotene is a vitamin A. Most adults I have take a very low dose. It's a high number, but it's a low dose. It's like if I told you I was giving you 1,000 of something and it was money, you'd be very happy until I told you it was 1,000 pennies. And then you realize, oh, that's not very much. Well, the unit of measure for vitamin A for years and years and years has been IU, international units. They've just changed it into mcg, micrograms of RE, retinol equivalency, I think it's REA, retinol equivalency activity. So you have to take a look at it. I'm giving it to you in IU, which is international units. I have almost every single patient that I've been seeing for 30 years take, on a regular basis, 10,000 IU of the Carlson vitamin A. I've been taking it for years and years, and if I give a lecture and I'm a little hoarse at the end of the lecture because I've been talking for 3 hours nonstop, then when I get home, if I'm a little bit hoarse, I'll take 75,000, and then the next day I wake up and I have not turned it into a sore throat. But 10,000 a day is a very, very low number for anybody that weighs even, 100 pounds. Next thing is vitamin D, which you have to get tested for to see what your vitamin D level is. If you're in the United States, where they use nanograms per milliliter, I have all of my patients get a vitamin D test every 3 months as I change their amount of vitamin D until they get up to between 60 and 80 nanograms per milliliter. If you're in a metric country where they use nanomoles per liter, then I want you to be between 150 and 200. But this is in the U.S., so I want my patients to have a vitamin D level in the U.S. of between 60 and 80. And I'll keep on checking it and adjusting their vitamin D every 3 months until I get that level. And vitamin C has been shown to be massively helpful for viruses. So I have most people taking at least 500 milligrams 3 times a day, with or without food. Preferably, if it doesn't give anybody loose stool or any problem, 1,000 milligrams 3 times a day, with or without food. And see which ones you can get in the store. I know it's hard to get vitamin C these days. I order things way, way in advance, so I haven't run out. I've been able to supply my patients all the time because I'm not supplying the public. But those are the things that I have everybody on for nutrients to help your body. And I tell them, during this, if you are at all afraid your immune system isn't working as well as it should be, because maybe you haven't been working with me yet for a year, then eliminate the 3 categories of foods that reduce immune function. They're very well known by nutritional biochemists, but not by doctors. It's not taught in medical school and not by the public. And those 3 categories of foods are sugars, and I don't care whether it's fruit or honey or molasses or coconut sugar, sugars with an S. Starches, so that's grains and beans and potatoes, corn, yams, winter squash. Those are all of the starches. And alcohol, which the body turns right into sugar. So eliminate those from your diet for 3 months. I apologize that you're going to feel better, have more energy, and lose some weight if you need to. That's just a side effect of eating better. And make sure that every meal has adequate amount of good quality fats and good quality, preferably grass-fed organic meats. So grass-fed, grass-finished beef, grass-fed, grass-finished lamb, pasture-raised organic eggs, pasture-raised organic chicken, good quality wild-caught fish that you've checked on some chart to make sure it's low in mercury. So you want one of those in each of your meals because you need the protein. And good quality fats. So organic grass-fed butter, organic grass-fed ghee, good quality extra virgin olive oil. You can go to theolivepress.com or extravirginity.com to find which brands are legitimate and which brands are not lying to you. The studies showed that 70% of the extra virgin olive oils in the United States don't contain any extra virgin olive oil. And what are the good fats? The fat that's on the grass-fed, grass-finished, lamb and beef. I never cut any of that fat off. I love WallaceFarms.com. I use their bacon, and I don't strain off the fat. I use their breakfast sausages, and I don't strain off the fat. This video has become a little bit longer than I thought it was going to be, but I wanted to give you an update, put a whole bunch of good things in here. And of course, if you want some additional immune boosters, Wellness Formula by Source Naturals, label directions, very, very good product. A good quality echinacea. The only good quality echinaceas I know of are Herb Farm, and farm is spelled P-H-A-R-M, Herbalist and Alchemist, and Medi Herb from Australia. Those 3 are really, really good. And of course, there are a bunch of other good things out there. Epicor. Epicor is another really, really good one. One 500 milligram capsule a day. I use Healthy Origins, but there are some other good ones. So I've just put a huge amount of information into this, and I hope I've been of help. There's obviously lots of other information in the COVID-19 area of my website where you're watching this video. However, you won't find this stuff on YouTube. I have stopped putting COVID information on YouTube because YouTube keeps on pulling all the legitimate stuff off because they're censoring it. So it will all be on my website. Subscribe to my website, tell other people about my website, and I wish you all the best of luck and the best of health. Thank you for listening.